Gilgo Beach Serial Killings. This is a true crime story about a horrible man who killed women who were making a living by being escorts. Now, I know that people call these women other types of names, but I'm going to be sticking to escorts. Most of the escorts advertised in Craigslist. This appears to be the way that the killer would find his victims. Investigators believe the killer is probably an educated white man in his 30s or 40s, married or with a girlfriend who knows the South Shore of Long Island well and living there now or previously. They surmise he is comfortable financially, owns a car or truck needed to transport victims, and could have a job in which he has ready access to burlap bags, and maybe in the past plastic bags, such as maybe a garden center or nursery. He also must be tech savvy and familiar with some of the police methods, possibly working in law enforcement or having friends who do. He could be hiding out there like the average Joe while plotting his next murder. Shannon Gilbert had disappeared in May of 2010 and was last seen at a client's house in nearby Ogre Beach, which prompted the search, as I say, because after this search, so many bodies were found. Police had been searching for missing Craigslist escort, Shannon Gilbert, when they found the first body off Ocean Park on December 11th, 2010. The dead woman that a canine sector officer and his cadaver dog located, it would not have turned out to be the woman they were looking for. The first that they found by forensics were the remains that belonged to another woman, also an online escort, Megan Waters. She was a visitor from Maine. Police found 4 bodies there in December of 2010. One of the nastiest winters in New York had seen in years forced them to restrict their search. In spring, after it thawed, this let investigators go back to work, and they found even more bodies. Medical examiners have certified that the first 4 bodies were victims of homicide. Common sense suggests that the women were killed and dumped by the same murderer. The reason this is because they were strangled or showed signs of being strangled, and they were all 4 put in burlap sacks. They were all laying next to each other also. District Attorney Spoda won't reveal exactly how the women were killed at the time. However, I just did for you. Authorities are reluctant to label this work of a serial killer. Why? I don't know. As the media has suggested, it is indicated that they were strangled somewhere else. They were put into the burlap sacks, and they were dumped amid thick shrubs just off the sand-swept causeway on the inlet side of Gilgo Beach in the town of Babylon. It indicates that there were 5 found, but at this time there was only 4. But we'll say all 5 names for you. 5 identified victims were Megan Waterman, 22, of Scarborough, Maine; Melissa Bartholomew, 24, of the Bronx; Maureen Brainerd Barnes, 25, of Norwich, Connecticut; Amber Lynn Costello, 27, of North Babylon, Long Island; and Jessica Taylor, 20, of Washington, D.C. According to their death certificates that were sent to the family members, all of the original 4 women had been strangled. There's also more that were found. One of them was an Asian man, 5'6". A sketch was made of him. He seems to have been between 17 and 23. His remains were found on April 4th with 2 missing incisor teeth and 2 missing molars. And in an odd twist, she was wearing women's clothing at the time, so she was likely an escort also. The man is believed to have been slain 5 to 10 years ago and showed signs of blunt force trauma. People have initially speculated that the discovery of the man's remains were unrelated to the discovery of the other women escorts along the desolated stretch of Ocean Parkway, but who knows? They were all escorts, and possibly the murderer didn't know she was a male until he may have also been killed. Not sure. Just putting out there what I think may be. Another female sex worker was found, and her toddler child. The toddler child was found wrapped in a blanket. Both of the mother and daughter had inexpensive jewelry. They were not located together, but because of their jewelry and later off of the DNA from their skeletal bones, they could tell that they were related, and the assumption is that it's mother and daughter. They also put out artist sketches of 2 unknown adults, which generated tips but failed to solve the mystery of their identities. 5 were found, as I named earlier, and quite a few still have not been identified. There was a sketch of a woman known as Jane Doe number 6. She stood about 5'2" and was between 18 to 35 years old. She was similar to Taylor, the torso of Jane Doe number 6. They were both found in Manorville originally, and then their other parts were found in the spring of 2011. Their head, hand, and legs were found in Ocean Parkway. If you remember, I spoke of earlier the sex worker, say escort, and her toddler. The toddler is presumed to be between 16 and 32 months old. She was wearing gold hoop earrings and a rope necklace. Her mother was found with 2 bracelets, one with X's and O charms, and the other had stones made to look like diamonds. Her body, the mother's body, was found near Jones Beach in Nassau County on April the 11th. Her daughter's was discovered 7 miles away at Gilgo Beach on April 4th. Now, although they can't at that time couldn't definitively say they were mother and daughter, that is just the belief that that's what it was. They did do a sketch based off the partial remains of the 3rd female. Just never has anyone identified her. Part of her remains, her legs, were discovered in plastic bags back in Fire Island. But this lady was found. She is an African American. I'm not sure I stated that earlier. And they eventually gave her the name Peaches because she has a tattoo on her left breast that looks like a peach. She was found in, part of her was found in a Rubbermaid container at Lake State Park, and the other part of her was found in Nassau County at Jones Beach on April 11th. At the same time, they wanted to add that there were more people that were found that fit some of the information, such as Peaches. There was another female named Cherries. They gave her this name. She is another Jane Doe. And the reason they called her Cherries, she had 2 cherries on her left breast, where Peaches had a peach on her left breast, indicating that she may also have been murdered in the same way. She was found stabbed, however, and washed up on the beach, and Mamaronic. It's Mamaronek, and I'm not sure how to pronounce it, in 2007. And then there were also 2 Long Island prostitutes, one identified as Tanya Rush, 39, a Brooklyn mom, whose hacked up body was found in 2008 in a small suitcase off of the Southern State Parkway in Belmore, and the other one, it doesn't say any. Cops are also studying even more bodies, each found in 2013, the remains of an Asian woman in Laddington Town near Oyster Bay, who had a necklace with a 22-karat gold pendant of a pig, and Natasha Jugo, 31, a Yugoslavian American woman from Queens, whose body washed up on Gilgo Beach on June 24th, 2013. Now, what was said by the police so far is that it's possible there were several killers that just decided to dump the bodies all here at the same time. So there may not be one killer, there may be multiple killers. This is a list of some of the suspects that they have investigated so far. Lucius Crawford, a 60-year-old ex-con from Westchester County, who was wanted for stabbing to death 2 women in the 1990s, one in Yonkers, one in the Bronx, and was in jail for a stabbing from 1995 to 2008. Cops found him in 2012. He was at home with a 3rd dead woman in his bed. But the police crossed him off the list, citing a lack of evidence. Another, as they did with Joel Rifkin and Robert Schulman, who went on killing sprees 25 years ago and were in prison at the time. They looked into them because they were in prison at the time. They believe they didn't commit the murders. They also eliminated John Bittrolf, 48, a carpenter from Manorville, Long Island, who in July was charged with strangling 2 prostitutes 20 years ago and dumping their naked bodies in the woods near the Long Island Express. He's pleaded not guilty to that case. Cops say he's suspected in a 3rd murder, but not in the Gilgo cases, though they have not revealed the exculpatory evidence that rules that out. Also, they think it was possible that it was 2 cops. They were looked into because they enjoyed frequenting escorts. James Bassett, he was a wealthy businessman who owned a nursery, which, would have indicated those burlap sacks. However, he killed himself in 2011, and because he worked at that nursery, that's the only indicator that said that he might have been part of it. Rumor said he may have done it. I have no idea if he did or didn't do it, but they marked him off their list. And the last one that I have as a suspect was Joseph Brewer. And Joseph Brewer was one of the people that the ladies that we talked about above, she was going to see him. He was one of her last clients. He saw Shannon Gilbert. Shannon Gilbert left his house, and after that, she died. He said he never had sex with her, and she ran away, paranoid, after large quantities of drugs. Now, I'm going to go through a little bit at a time as what has been found on this case. And to me, the biggest thing that I found and the most frustrating thing was about a police chief, James Burke, Suffolk County Police Chief. He would not let the FBI join the case. He kept things quiet. He never said much. And he just didn't help the case at all. These women deserved help. And in this case, he pushed it all under the rug. He hid everything from everyone. Now, we know why. Disgraced former Suffolk County Police Chief James Burke stymied the FBI's investigation into the Gilgo Beach serial killings for years. Burke was arrested after assaulting a man in 2012. Want to know why? Because the man stole sex toys from his police car, and he was afraid that if you brought in the FBI, they would find out about the stupid thing that he did and the things that he did. FBI joins the investigation, however, in 2015, when 11 bodies were now being investigated with the police in Suffolk County, with that chief. Oh, just terrible. Also, the district attorney was not much better at the time. His name was Thomas Spoda. He is also the former Suffolk County district attorney, and his former chief investigations, Christopher McPartland, were convicted for conspiracy, witness tampering, obstruction of justice, and being accessories after the fact in Burke's case. So, the police chief, the district attorney, and the investigator with the district attorney all were corrupt. And they did not try to help these women. Just terrible. So, finally, someone tries to do a little bit of help, and I'm not sure if it helped or not, but he created a TV show that studied the serial killings. Joshua Zeman was the person that decided to do the story because no one had solved the case yet. The show put forth a lot of reasons why the case was not having much success getting solved. He spoke of these former people that were in charge. There was police corruption, political backstabbing, and the ladies that were killed had a profession that made them hide from the police in most occasions. In the series, they talked about Khalil White with Sarah Carnes. Khalil was a boyfriend of Jessica Taylor, and Sarah was a friend who was with Maureen Brainerd Barnes the night she disappeared. Sarah said she was contacted by the killer. In 2017, it was found that maybe one of the 10 bodies found on Gilgo Beach may have been killed, but the carpenter that killed 2 prostitutes in the 1990s. So if you remember, what was his name? John Bitrolf, the carpenter in Manorville, Long Island. It is thought that he may have killed one of the ladies. The Manorville man, he is in jail with consecutive sentences of 25 to life for the 2 deaths of the other prostitutes. It's possible that the 2 bodies that are partially found in Manorville and later found on Gilgo Beach were killed by him. Hasn't been solved, hasn't been stated, it hasn't been tested against him. This is just a rumor. In 2020, a picture of a belt that was found with the Gilgo Beach victims is posted everywhere. The letters either said HM or WH on the tip of it. It was pretty worn, and it was black on one side and brown on the other. The investigators do not believe that the belt belongs to any of the victims. They believe that the suspect may have handled it. This is the 10th anniversary of when the first 4 bodies were discovered. In May, the cops announced that they identified one of the Jane Does as Valerie Mack using public genealogy website. The authorities have said that there must have been at least 3 killers in the area of Gilgo Beach. They have had the belt, but they decided in 2020 to finally release the evidence and information. But they could not state why. Then there's the Lost Girls trailer that was released on Netflix the day that all that information was released. I'm not sure why it coincided, but it was released at the same time. My guess is those 3 corrupt people. The Suffolk County Police Department did not want the 911 recordings of Shannon Gilbert to be released yet, but, eventually they've got to let those go. Now, a good thing does happen finally. January 1st, 2022, the new Suffolk County Commissioner Rodney Harrison comes in and pledges that the Gilgo Beach murders will be solved. We will not rest until they are solved. The commissioner was a former chief of the NYPD, so he brings big city ideas to a small town. The case had went cold for several years. Now, this new chief will hopefully reopen the case and help get this case solved. January 10th, 2022, Melissa Can, who is Maureen Brainerd Barnes' sister, said, I have been missing her for 15 years. She has been trying to hunt for her sister and has been pushing the police to find her sister's killer ever since they found her body. She spent a lot of time looking for her sister, and it was hard on her. So she had to realize she had to let the police try to find the killer. She communicates with the detectives weekly and more often. She still hopes that her sister's killer will be brought to justice. Melissa believes with this new commissioner and the new district attorney, Ray Turney, that there will be justice, finally, for her sister. Lorraine Ella, the mother of Megan Waterman, was not sure that her daughter's case would ever be solved until she saw the new police commissioner's speech. She said that she believes that he cares for the victims. Sherry Gilbert would like to have her sister's 911 call released so that everyone can hear the 23-minute long call. It will be hard for me to hear, but it helps find her killer. I want everything out so people can listen and see if they can help. February 15th, 2022, the commissioner puts together a new task force to help solve the Gilgo Beach murder. This task force is made up now of FBI, New York State Police, Suffolk County Police Department Homicide Squad, Suffolk County District Attorney's Office, and Suffolk County Sheriff's Office. With all of these people in place, they will have a fresh look on the massive amount of evidence. There are also new scientific techniques to help with the probe. Hopefully, this will help identify all the rest of the victims. Also, they're offering a $25,000 reward to help find the killer. Not much time passes, and they raise that to $50,000 for information leading to the arrest of the Gilgo Beach killer. May 13th, 2022, the 911 call from Shannon Gilbert is finally released. It is actually made up of 3 calls. She was frantic. She was so troubled and so very confused. The police do believe that she died believe she died in an unfortunate accident, even though there is a 911 call. She seems disoriented. It appears that someone may have given her drugs. By March 27th, 2023, the inaugural Hamptons Whodunit Festival kicks off in April. This is so bad. And it says that it will look into the string of unsolved murders on Gilgo Beach. This will be done through a moderated panel with former NYPD investigator and filmmaker Josh Zeman. Most people thought the idea was ghoulish and obnoxious. There was a lot that will happen at the festival, and it should be chilling, and there will be cocktail party also. It lasts 3 days. The people having the event hope that it will help solve the murders. Also, it keeps the murders in the public viewing eyes. But by April, the festival has been canceling the Gilgo panel because many people have complained the events are exploiting the. By June 17th, 2023, it is believed that the Gilgo Beach Killer may have taken a break from the killing because he became too old, maybe. It could also be that he had somehow learned to suppress his urges, or they found another way to take care of their urges to this day. It could even have been that the murderer was already in jail for another crime, or maybe he died, or he just, for some reason, stopped committing crime. July 14th, 2023. A suspect is finally arrested at his offices in Manhattan in connection to the Gilgo Beach killings. It is Rex Howerman, 59 years old, married, an architect in New York City. He was caught because of the DNA from a hair found on the victim Megan Waterman matched. They found the match from a piece of pizza in a discarded pizza crust that he had thrown out in front of the building where he worked. He is a father of 2. He is also a classmate with the Hollywood star Billy Baldwin. Not that that's relevant, but for some reason, that's out there. He lived in Massapequa Park, Long Island, and had an office in Manhattan. He has been connected to the Gilgo 4. Not all of the other bodies at Gilgo Beach for now. For now, they have enough evidence for the 4. He went to court. He pled not guilty. He was charged with 3 of the 4 Gilgo 4 murders. He was arrested and charged for Melissa Bartholomew, Amber Costello, and Megan Waterman. He is the prime suspect in the 4th murder, Maureen Brainerd Barnes. Before the court appearance, all of this information is revealed. Now listen to this, because I've always wondered this when I started reading this. Why don't they have any of this information? But they did. They just weren't putting it out to the public. They have cell phone bills linked to Howerman, revealed that he used a burner phone to meet up with 3 of the 4 victims. He has also linked to one of the cell phones on a surveillance video that showed him purchasing the device at a store in Midtown Manhattan. A burner phone allegedly used by Howerman placed a menacing call to victim Melissa Bartholomew's relative after her death. Howerman's wife was traveling out of state during the murders of Bartholomew, Megan Waterman, and Amber Lynn Costello. Records obtained from Tinder revealed that the burner phone was linked to a fictitious account for Andrew Roberts using an email that Howerman also accessed from his personal cell phone. Selfies that appeared to have him taken by Howerman were sent to solicit sex on the email account associated with his dating profile. 2 of the burner cell phones were used extensively between 2021 and 2023 to contact, again, escorts and massage parlors. An email address linked to one of the burner phones was used to conduct thousands of searches related to sex workers, child pornography, sadistic, torture-related sex acts such as girl begging for rape porn, pretty girl with bruised face porn, and tied up and raped porn. Numerous searches about the Gilgo Beach murder were also linked to the email address associated with the burner phone, including, "Why hasn't the Long Island serial killer been caught? Why could law enforcement not trace the calls made by the Long Island serial killer and for the task force investigating him?" There were also queries relating to specific victims and their relatives, as well as podcasts, documentaries, an IP address used to book flights for Huerman and his wife on JetBlue also accessed GilgoNews.com, a website maintained by authorities to share updates on the murder case. Huerman's wife's DNA was believed to be found on 3 of the victims' bodies. DNA testing on a water bottle from outside Huerman's home was determined to be a match to a sample of the woman's hair found on tape used to tie up Costello and Waterman, as well as the belt used to bind victim Maureen Brainerd Barnes' feet. Authorities believe the heavyset Huerman matches the description of ogre-like John seen with Costello before she vanished. Huerman drives a first-generation Chevrolet Avalanche, the same vehicle that a witness in Costello's case said was driven by the suspect. His home, when they went to it, was run down in comparison to the whole rest of the area where his home was. That is supposed to be an indicator that they said the man would have. Don't remember that one, but that's supposed to be one of the indicators that he would be hoarding. He would not keep up his home because he's more worried about others. Since the task force took over, within 6 weeks, they identified Huerman as a possible suspect. They found that Huerman was watching them, so they did their very best to keep their investigation under wraps. They were able to identify Huerman by a New York State investigator using a database he had access to. They then used the power of grand juries to get over 300 subpoenas and search warrants looking into his background. While searching the home of Huerman, it was noted that he had permits for 92 guns, and they have not all been found. It is possible these weapons were used in the murders of the Gilgo Four, but there's no evidence that specifically says this. But you never know. They have removed a cooler from the home also. Not sure what it's tied to, but it might lead to something later. Huerman was still looking for sex workers in the years before he was finally arrested. The Suffolk County cops went ahead and arrested Huerman because they feared he may go back to his old ways and start killing again. So they went with the cases against the 3 women they had enough evidence on, and possibly the 4th one, Brainerd Barnes. Cops stated, "As we worked through the cases, we got closer and closer, and we built the evidence. Suddenly, the balance tips in favor of public safety. Collectively, we felt that if it was time to strike the balance and to take him off the street, so that's what they did." I can understand that. They were more worried that he might go back and do it again. I'm not sure, though. He's 59. I'm not sure he could do all the. Huerman used multiple identities during the 2 years he allegedly murdered Melissa Bartholomew, Megan Waterman, and Amber Costello. A total of 11 bodies were discovered in the desolated brush under Gilgo Beach, including an Asian man, an unidentified woman, and at this time, it's not stated if he had anything to do with those. It appears that the victim type that Huerman looked were women that were to maybe 7. They were between 4'10" to maybe, I think the tallest one was 5'5". They weighed between 95 and 105 pounds. They all seemed to have green to hazel eyes. There were 2 exceptions to that. The 2-year-old baby girl, and also the possible black female. Now, who were the Gilgo Beach victims? I'm just going to give you a little bit of that. Melissa Bartholomew, 24. She was an escort who lived in Union Park section of and dreamed of one day opening her. She was the last seen alive in July 12, 2000. Maureen Brainerd Barnes, 25. She lived in Norwich, Connecticut. She went missing after taking an Amtrak train to Connecticut on July 6, 2007. She was found on December 2000. Amber Lynn Costello, 27. She was, poor thing, she was an escort, but she was also a heroin addict who lived in West Babylon, New York. And for the most part, she was working to make money to support her drug habit. She did try getting out of drugs. She went to a rehab. She just was in a bad place. She was found December 13th, 2010. She was last seen before that, September the 2nd. Megan Waterman, she was a 22-year-old mom of one. She was last seen June 6, 2010. She lived in Scarborough, Maine. She earned a living being an escort. Her body was found December 13th, 2010 on the north side of Ocean Park near Gilgo Beach. Jessica Taylor, she was 20. She was an escort in New York City. She was originally labeled Jane Doe number 5. Part of her was found in Manorville on January 26, 2003. That was her torso. And on March 29, 2011, the rest of her was found alongside Ocean Parkway. Valerie Mack, also known as Jane Doe number 6, 24 years old. She lived in Philadelphia when she went missing. She worked as an escort. She also used the alias Melissa Taylor. Her relatives last saw her in 2000 at the Port Republic in New Jersey, where she was reported missing to the police. Her partial skeleton remains, which is just her torso, in 2000. And the rest of her was found April 4th, 2011. Valerie Mack's half-sister said investigators have contacted her to get a timeline showing where she had traveled. An unidentified Asian man dressed in women's clothes, he was found April 4th, 2011. He was killed by blunt force trauma. He was estimated to be 17 to 23 years old at his death, 5'6", and he had bad teeth. Next was Peaches and her daughter. Peaches and her daughter were African American. Her remains were found partially in Hampstead Lake State Park, 1997, and she had become known as Peaches because she had a Pete tattoo on her left breast. On April 4th, 2011, police uncovered the remains of a toddler who was about 2 years old at the time of her death. DNA testing confirmed that one of the skeletons was that of the year-old girl's mother, Peach. Karen Vargata, also known as Jane Doe 7, she was a 34-year-old Manhattan woman. She was believed to have disappeared in February of 1996. 2 months later, her legs were found in Plastic Park near Fire Island's Blue Point Park. She was also nicknamed Fire Island Doe. At the time of her disappearance, Vergata was believed, and they put together both sets of remains and had DNA to test against it. Karen Vergata. Shannon Gilbert was 23. Gilbert was a Craigslist escort who lived in Jersey City. She had traveled with her driver, Michael Pack, to Manhattan, a client, Joseph, at the time, and Ogre Beach Associate. Gilbert was a Craigslist escort who lived in New Jersey. She traveled with her driver, Michael Pack, from Manhattan to Oak Association, where she met Joseph Brewer on May 1st, 2010. She spoke with 2 neighbors before she disappeared in that area. Freaked out, calling 911. Her body was discovered in a marsh near Ogre Beach, about half a mile from where she was last seen alive. She was found December 13th, 2011. Here is all the new information that I have so far. Lynn Bartholomew, the mother of Melissa Bartholomew, thinks that the alleged Long Island serial killer deserves no mercy for luring in vulnerable women, taunting her younger daughter also. She said death is too good for him. It's too easy. It appears that while Huerman was talking to Melissa's little sister, he told her that he killed Melissa and he sexually assaulted her. Since the bodies were exposed to the marsh environment for a long period of time, forensically, there are not a lot of work except identifying that the causes of death was homicidal violence. There were all supposed to have been indicators of strangulation. I'm not sure what homicidal violence means, but from what I understand, it looks as if they were strangled. Sherry Gilbert, Shannon Gilbert's sister, said, "It's been a long time coming, and I never gave up hope that one day justice would be served. I'm just happy it happened sooner rather than later. The suspect, Rex, deserves to rot in prison for the rest of his life. He destroyed many lives, so while it won't bring our loved ones back, it does help that one less monster's off the streets, and he can't hurt anyone. Ladies and gentlemen, Rex Huerman is a demon that walks among us. He is a predator that ruined families." This is a statement from Suffolk Police Commissioner. When Huerman went to court for his arraignment, he was in tears. But when he was arraigned, he was emotionless. He did nothing. He just sat there. Now, did the family know anything? That would be my next question after arresting him. Huerman was married 2 times. He has 2 children with Asa Ellerup. It appears that the wife, Asa, and the 2 children were away from home for 3 of the 4 who were killed: Melissa Bartholomew, Megan Waterman, and Amber Costello. Authorities have not been able to determine if Huerman's wife was out of town or not when Brainerd Barnes was last seen in July of 2007. I'm assuming that's the reason why they have not charged him for her yet. Hair found on 3 of the victims was later found to have DNA belonging to Ellerup, authorities said. However, Ellerup is not suspected of any involvement in the murders, which would lead me to think that either Ellerup was in the same vehicle where the girls were, or at some point he had the ladies in his home. How else would Ellerup's hair get on them? When Waterman was reported missing in June 2010, Ellerup was in Maryland, prosecutors said. She was in New Jersey in September 2010 when Costello vanished, and in Iceland in July 2009 when Bartholomew was last seen. Isn't this cute? One of the names that was given to the Gilgo Beach serial killer was the Family Guy character. Great. Just put a cartoon to it. Yeah, that makes it better. August 9th, 2023, Huerman was ordered by a judge to give a buccal swab of his DNA for testing. Well, originally, the DNA came from pizza crust. Pizza crust came from a pizza box that was thrown out in front of his office building. And it did indicate that the bodies were tied to each other. But because it was off of the bread, they wanted to get an actual DNA test to verify that it was him. and he didn't want to give it up. His lawyer did not want to give it up. He said that it didn't matter, that using the pizza wasn't good enough to arrest his person in the first place. He was wrong. The judge said yes, 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 yes. Oh, gracious. Karen Vergata, 34, was identified as a potential victim also of Gilgo Beach Serial Killer. Rex was finally identified in a second. Huerman's wife, Asa Ellerup, has now filed for divorce. However, Asa has skin cancer and breast cancer, and her insurance is about to run out since she's getting divorced. Huerman is finally indicted in January of this year for the slaying of Maureen Brainerd Barnes. I guess they finally decided they've got enough to back up the fact that he killed her, obviously. I know they want to make sure he goes to jail for all of these things, but it's just crazy. It looks very clear to me without seeing all the evidence, and I don't know why it doesn't seem like it to them, but okay. New witnesses claim Rex Huerman has contacts with 2 prostitutes prior to their death. One of them was on Valentine's Day in 1996. This lady went to a swingers party at Huerman's Massapequa Park home, and according to her affidavit, she first went to a now defunct Manhattan swinging club called La Trapeze with her NYPD narcotic detective boyfriend at the time. While there, they saw a bulletin board ad for swingers interested in coming to a home in Long Island. The couple decided to drive out to Massapequa Park, but first they picked up a sex worker in Manhattan. The woman, the witness said she believes was Karen Vergata. She was hungry and homeless, she stated in her affidavit, adding that the girl was initially nervous about making the Long Island trek with the couple, but relaxed after she learned that she was with a cop. The witness said they were greeted by a husband and a wife. She later came to believe was Huerman and her spouse. I believe I told this story a little earlier. The cop said both she and her cop boyfriend had sex with Huerman and that Eller declined joining in. Eller has not been charged or named as a suspect in any of the murders. As they left, the woman said she saw Vergata run out of the house naked and asked her boyfriend if they should drive her home. But the boyfriend said Huerman and Vergata were only playing a game. I felt uneasy about it, but we left, and I later found out that he was the murderer. I was shocked and deeply sorrowful for having left her behind at Huerman's house, she said. I told John Ray of these things because I needed to speak with him so that Karen would not be left behind again. The same witness said she also picked up Huerman several weeks or months later, and she refused to drive him out. Oh, this was another one, was a cabbie, and she picked up a lady, one of them, and she was given $1,000 supposedly in an envelope, and in the envelope it ended up being paper. She called another cabbie to come pick her up, and she didn't see her again. However, she did see Huerman again, and Huerman several weeks or months later, and she refused to drive him out to a distant location in the woods because he kept changing his destination. He got enraged, he threatened to kill her, and flashed a gun before getting out of her vehicle. Harrison declined to comment on the accreditations of the new witness accounts, but he said, "We have the information, we're working on it, and we'll see where it leads us down the road." Huerman's estranged wife said he is not capable of carrying out the 4 slayings he's accused of committing. Even though she has now filed for divorce after the arrest, She said she still gives him the benefit of the doubt, as we all deserve, in a statement through her attorney. No. Just no. She said, I will listen to all the evidence and withhold judgment until the end of the trial, Elrap said, adding that she extends her heartfelt sympathies to the women known as the Gilgo Four that her husband is accused of killing. Nobody deserves to die in that manner. Elrap also claimed she had visited Huerman on a weekly basis at the Suffolk County Jail in Riverhead since his arrest, which a Suffolk County Sheriff's Office spokesperson said was not an accurate description. I am not sure that anyone went to go see him. Ellera filed for divorce just 6 days after Huerman was arrested in July and charged with the brutal murders. Okay, so what do you think? I think he's murdered those 4 women for sure. I think it's also possible he murdered all of the other women in the original 10. And the reason I say so is because people, especially serial killers, change their MO as they're progressing. And from the ages up, it looks like his MO changed. It looks like originally he was worried that people would figure out who did these things, so he cut off their hands and their head, and then he buried them somewhere else. Myself, I believe he probably put those up and froze them or something, put them somewhere until later, and then buried them out by the beach. I think he did torsos, and then the other parts he put up, and I'm not sure, maybe he never was going to put them out there. He buried them somewhere else, and then he finally put them out there with the rest of the bodies. I don't know if he killed the Asian man, but he might have, because he picked him up, thought he was a woman, found out he wasn't, killed him. As for the only ones I find very odd and not sure they fit in at all is the African American, and the only reason I say that is because there's a child. So I don't know. I don't know. That just flusters me. That's even worse to me. Ugh. Anyway, it's possible she was one of his very first people and didn't know there was a child. I don't know. I've also heard rumors that it's possible that there's someone that helped him. That seems odd, but I do not know, and I want to know why the wife's hair kept showing up everywhere. And how does she know nothing over all these years? Maybe she just was away. Maybe they did have that kind of relationship. I do not know. But I am glad there's finally someone arrested, and I hope he goes to jail forever or something else. I don't know what, but anything. Maybe they could, I don't know. Thank you for listening. Subscribe. And that was hard for me. Thank you. Bye.